All right. The last part. We tried to make it clear before the break that every human being has within itself a living God, the higher self, the source from which one flows or emanates. That God is not an endpoint, for there are no endpoints in boundless, as we said. Well, every being has in itself a God, the highest principle of its being. That is the case with a universe, a solar system, a planet, an atom, everything. Such a relative highest being could be called a source being, from which the other beings, the lesser evolved beings, arise. They are not created by that source being. Creation in the dogmatic sense of making something out of nothing, that cannot exist in boundlessness where everything has always been, but what takes place is a process of emanation. The summit of the hierarchy, the supreme being in the class, in the school of life, emanates in a lower field, a sphere, a magnetic field in which less developed beings can develop. That supreme being in the class, or in the school of life, has thus become a source being to which all other can become equal. And every being who lives within that sphere of the God of that hierarchy contains in themselves the seed of that God. And therefore, any being can grow into a God, equal to the top of the hierarchy from which it emanated. Thus we can climb step after step up the ladder of life and become equal to our inner divinity. Human beings can self-consciously climb that ladder because they have developed self-consciousness. Beings from the lower realms of nature do so instinctively, until they too, after many incarnations, have reached the human realm, after many manvantaras and many embodiments of the earth, they have developed their thinking, after which they can do it self-consciously. Well, the incipient self-conscious phase is a difficult one. When you are unconscious, you more or less automatically follow the influences from above, from the kingdoms of nature above you. Self-consciousness goes along with an increase of free will, the ability of consciously making choices. Even in the lower realms of nature there is free will, but it's so minimal that we generally speak of it of not being there. At least it's much less powerful than in humans. Our thinking mind, on the one hand, is our salvation, because with it we can self-consciously focus on the spiritual aspects within us and become those aspects. And by doing so, we pave the way over which we can move towards the unity of life. But thinking also allows us to identify with the lower regions of nature, with our personality or our body, resulting in a feeling of separateness. In the first case, we realize the actual brotherhood and will live accordingly. In the second case, we create ourselves an obstacle, a bottleneck, preventing the stream of life and inspiration from flowing to our vehicle. And this picture holds true for the individual human being, but also for the whole of humanity. The consequence is that we deprive the entire lower nature, our vehicle with its cells, cellular beings, of that inspirational flow. We let those cell beings starve, so to speak. Cells and the other living building blocks that compose our entire constitution are also subject to the cyclic law. So, in this life or in the next life, they will embody themselves again in our vehicle. Yes, they help us to compose our vehicle. But if we have starved them in a past life, if we didn't provide them with spiritual food, then we have not given them the optimum habitat in which they could thrive. And that naturally leads to disharmony, to disease, or other discomforts, which can hinder us in our spiritual path. The same is true for humanity. We told you that humanity has the function of being the vehicle of Buddhi. If we, as humanity, identify with the outside things, live in the feeling of having nothing to do with others, then it leads to a sick world. The mental sphere is polluted, does not function properly. There needs to be a release from the pent-up mental, emotional negativity. And this is how conflicts arise. This is how war arises. You see how important it is to think correctly. That means to think unselfishly. Individual thinking, our individual sphere of thought, determines whether we are healthy or sick, harmonious or disharmonious, and the collective sphere of thought determines the state of the world, whether there is peace and friendship among peoples, and is prosperity distributed among all people, or are some people very rich, living in palaces while others have no crust of bed and sleep in the gutter? What do you think? Are we fulfilling our task as humanity properly? You don't have to be very wise, I think, to see that we as humanity still have a lot to learn. But there's no reason to despair, because we can learn from every experience. It's not that experience itself leads to more knowledge or greater wisdom, as some people bump into the same stone many times, but we may learn from our experiences, and especially from our sufferings. We can change tack, and instead of constantly identify ourselves with the lower manas, we focus more and more on the higher manas, the nobler mind. Now, we have said that growth is the most natural thing there is. The urge for greater consciousness is found in all the realms of nature. We have also said, because our mind is developed, that human beings have self-consciousness, so they can self-consciously choose to travel the path that is within them. They can also set their own speed. They can also determine the motive. For what reason do they want to grow? Would like to dwell a little longer on this motive at the end of the lecture. That motive is important, especially in relation to the destiny of beings. Well, you may pursue the inner path because you would like to attain peace, happiness, and bliss for yourself. You see, through the illusion of outer life, know that there is always suffering in outer life. You don't want that. And therefore you focus on the spirit side of life, to get away from that suffering. Because then you don't have to be born in this vale of tears that earth often is. You can also walk the path because you want bliss and peace and happiness for everyone. In this case, it's not so much about yourself, about your own liberation, but about liberation of everyone, liberation of humanity. You accept life in the outer world as long as you maintain the possibility of doing something for your fellow human beings. The paradox is that the path is the same, yet the destination is different. the path splits, as it were. You can choose the left-hand path, the path for yourself, and you can choose the right-hand path. You live for the whole. The path is one, yet in the end twofold, says the voice of the silence. This may seem a little bit theoretical, but an example from our daily life may make it clearer. Imagine two students. They are studying medicine or they're studying to become a doctor, whatever, it doesn't matter. Suppose one student wants to become a doctor, thinks only about helping people, making people better and healthy, which he or she will soon be able to do when graduated and being a doctor. The other one does not have that goal at all and focuses only on the degree. If the first student has the desired degree, she or he immediately knows what to do. But the second student, who has studied only for himself and has never thought about what to do with that degree, sinks into a void. This is also true of walking the inner path. If you go that path only with the desire for personal bliss, it will eventually lead that you leave this earthly realm, you enter nirvana, as it is called, a blissful state of consciousness, but because you have never built up a picture of what you will do once you have your degree, you lapse into a kind of sleep, a kind of unconsciousness. Those who walk the inner path with the goal of helping their fellow human beings have a different destiny. They remain on earth, or at least in the sphere of the earth, in order to protect, to help, teach, inspire the fellow human beings. This latter path is called the path of compassion. We will talk more about compassion with you in 2 weeks. Finally, one more thought. You may think that choice between helping your fellow human beings and to enter nirvana will occur the moment you have completed the path and you are on the threshold of nirvana, but that is not the case. In fact, with every decision we make now, we make a choice, which ultimately leads to whether we turn left or right at the fork on the path. We are already choosing our destiny now. You may choose spiritual development for your own peace and bliss. That's your right. You can live a noble life. But if you do so, you will not help your fellow human beings. The world is crying, but you don't hear it. In fact, you have not yet fully grasped the idea of oneness. You are still subject to illusion. For there is oneness. Brotherhood is a fact. More on that in 2 weeks. But now first another 3 minutes break, after which I will try to answer your questions. So see you in 3 minutes. Welcome back. Astrid.
Yes, we have a number of questions. Is it true that those people that evolve for their own bliss try to reach an end goal, while those working for others will always know that there's more work to do?
Yes, that's correct, I think. And the second group, they're not looking for an end goal, just working, they do what they feel they need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But could it be possible that if you want to go on the path of compassion, that still is a selfish choice because you want to do it. You want to do it.
Very subtle, but yes, I think it is. Because if you know that if you choose the path for your own bliss, and that you will, in a certain way, do a step backwards because the other ones are still wiser. So you may choose, I will choose the path of compassion, so that I don't fall in that hole. So the best thing you should do, and that sometimes evokes irritation with people, the best thing you can do is don't ask yourself on which path you are. Because if you are not interested in which path you are walking, for sure you're on the right path.
You just do what you have to do, or what?
Because it's not about me, it's not about you. No, you see something and you know you have to do something. And the reward, you don't think about reward, you don't think about yourself. You perceive, you feel that you are part of the whole, and you do the work that is needed to be done. And don't ask yourself, do it for myself, or did I do it for the whole? No, just do it, and stop thinking about me. So, if you really want to know if you are on the path of compassion, then you don't care. You're not interested in it. You know what? Because it's not important. You are not important. Important is the whole. And that's why sometimes people get very angry, because they are asking themselves, in what path am I in? Am I on the right path, on the wrong path? Well, if you don't ask yourself in what path you are, then you are on the right path.
It makes you very humble. Yeah, there is another question. It says, "Thank you, Hank, for the good question. And which special act and possibility is laid in each language?" I don't get the question, but no. Really good question. And which special act and possibility is laid in each language? Is it?
Well, the best. You use words to express some ideas, and if you really want to understand what the other is saying, forget the words. There is a Chinese philosopher who said, "I'm looking for someone who forgets the words I'm saying, so that I am able to talk with him." Yeah, because words is only a vehicle for thoughts. And you probably have noticed that English is not my language, it's my second or third language. So we have to do with it, you have to do with it. But I hope to make clear that the important things is not the language, but the thoughts we try to express. I don't know if that's an answer to the question, but...
We'll see. If not, then maybe you can ask another question. The last question for now is, how much time do we have to develop ourselves, to become, to go to the next kingdom? Do we have time forever? Or?
Well, there are two answers. Eternity, because a monad has always been there and will always be there. But we are part of the living planet Earth, and we are part of, the 10 kingdoms of nature, and they all move to more spirituality. So they move. And if you are lazy and you stay behind, at a certain moment you can follow. And then you fall asleep and you have to wait to the next embodiment of the planet Earth. So, in general, you may say that there are 7 cycles, and we are in the first cycle, big cycle now, cycle of hundreds of millions of years. The 4th round, we call it in Theosophy. And that rounds is divided in 7 lesser cycles, and we are in the 5th lesser cycle of the 4th round. But life goes on. So, if we are in the 6th subcycle of the 4th round and in the 7th subcycle of the 4th round, and you have still the mentality of the 4th, of even the 3rd cycle, Well, it's just like in a class of school, yeah? You are in lesson 1 and the rest of the students are in lesson 20, so at a certain moment you can follow it. You fail, and well, that doesn't mean that you never can grow, but you have to wait a long time till the wave of life, yeah, after 7 rounds, after the Manvantara, after the embodiment of the earth is having its nirvana and comes back, and then you can, start again. So, well, it's up to you, but I think it's not wise to wait so long, because there is some beautiful future in front of you. You have so many beautiful things that you can explore, beautiful consciousness that you can evolve. So why wait? Why do you want to stay in this vale of tears if there are so much better worlds? So my advice is, well, go ahead, grow in consciousness, think differently, go with everybody, go in front of everybody, go and hurry, because you have nothing to lose. But of course, it's up to you.
It's almost like when you have kids that want to be bigger because they want to know how to read and write and do all these things.
Yes.
Because there's so many options.
Yes. So we have a lot of things to learn, and I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world to learn, to grow, to explore your consciousness, to enlarge your consciousness, to feel that you are one of, humanity, that you are a ripple in the ocean of life. It's so many beautiful things are waiting for us, but we have to take it. We have to explore our consciousness.
Okay.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, next week we don't have a lecture, we have our study, and if you want to join that study session, which I can certainly recommend, sign up on our website. You will receive a Zoom link and some short text on the topic. And the nice thing of a study session is that everybody can talk. Now you ask me some questions by email or by chat function, and then we see each other because it's a Zoom session, and we can talk with each other, and everybody can give their idea. So the interactive exchange of ideas is very inspiring. It's, I think, much better than just listening to a talk. So you are welcome on our study session. Next week the study session, and and then in 2 weeks we have another lecture about Universal Brotherhood, affecting nature. And we will end with the Gayatri. That is, not a prayer, but you focus. We will talk about concentration. Focus on the highest, the relative highest, of course, part in yourself, the consciousness, the divine consciousness within yourself, not outside, but within yourself. And that highest part sometimes is called the inner core or the monad. Here it is called the sun, the inner sun, the divine sun. O thou, golden sun of most excellent splendor, illumine our hearts and fill our minds so that we, recognizing our oneness with the divinity which is the heart of the universe, may see the pathway before our feet and tread it to those distant goals of perfection, stimulated by thine own radiant light.